New Jersey to Las Vegas, New Jersey Raider Nation coming to you live.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash.
About the coin. Now I know there's a lot of you guys out there wondering, what the frig is this coin that everybody is talking about?
Alright, I'd like to send a shout out to this Raiders fan. During the offseason, he used a coin to predict the Raiders schedule.
There's been a lot of talk about the coin flipped by a Raider fan that has correctly predicted every game of the season.
Everyone in Raider Nation is talking about it. The sports world is starting to follow it. And in this video, NJRaiderNation talks about the Raider coin that has predicted the first 11 games of the Raiders 2021 season 100% accurately. And we got the man, the myth, the legend, Evan from New York, otherwise known as pongislame on Reddit, the creator of the Raiders coin. I'm stoked to get into this as it's becoming one of the hottest trends, certainly in Raider Nation, but even all around sports, with Barstool Sports and CBS putting out articles about it. YouTubers, tweets, memes, donations, all have been influenced by the coin's predictions.
Who's in charge here?
The coin.
You better get your Raiders coins for Christmas on lock, because I have a feeling they'll be selling out this holiday season. We'll cover it all and more and get to the bottom of the answers that many of us are wondering in this exclusive one-on-one interview coming up next. Welcome to the NJRaiderNation channel, and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. Now to hear from the creator of the Raiders coin himself. Well, Evan, thank you for joining me. You've really got the sports world and betting space on high alert with your predicted schedule outcome using your unique technique to have gotten those results. We have 6 games left in the 2021 NFL season, and you've used a coin flip to determine wins and losses for every game this season. And somehow, the Raiders schedule that you had predicted is still 100% correct. So let's start off with you. Tell us about yourself, anything you'd like to say to start us off.
I'm Evan. I'm the face behind the Reddit account pongislame, and as you were saying before, I am a Raiders fan. Based in upstate New York, so one of the few Raiders fans in that area, and I mean they don't call it Raider Nation for nothing. So it's a countrywide fan base
all over the nation. We rep our states, and thank you for repping New York. I'm New Jersey, so NJ Raider Nation here. So like you said, you are a Raiders fan. Are you a big football fan? Do you like other sports?
I mean, the Raiders are probably the biggest team that I follow here, and I mean where I'm at in upstate New York, I'm kind of like right in between where there's a lot of different fan bases. So I'm not completely in Western New York yet, where it's full Bills Mafia, and I'm not completely like over in the Albany or New York City region where there's a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Jets fans, things like that. So there's a really good mix around the area where I come from, and I'd say the other big sport that I follow is Syracuse sports. I'm right near the area, so I follow that pretty closely as well. Big win in double overtime over Indiana last night. Okay.
Are you a numbers guy? Are you a superstitious person?
I wouldn't call myself superstitious. I mean, I do have I did study engineering when I was in college, so I do have a pretty big statistics background. So I think that was one of the big reasons why I started this kind of project of mine, just because I was interested in how statistically the season could play out. Okay, cool. So let's start from the beginning. How did you think of the coin flip idea? Yeah, so I mean, it honestly came about. It was preseason NFL, and I was starting to see some of the game odds come through from week 1 through week 17. I mean, so I thought to myself, hey, how could the season actually play out? Because I mean, everybody in the beginning of the season, they think to themselves, oh, our team can make a run. Our team could shock the world and do everything that we can. But how realistic could that actually be? So that's how the idea came up. And then I was just doing a little bit of digging, and I found some websites that converted what the game odds were that I was seeing to potential win percentages. And I mean, I was saying this before, it's not really that scientific. like for example, I would see, for as an example, let's say the Steelers were favored to beat the Browns by 3. It was a -3 game, and so that percentage in odds would be around like 55%, 54%.
Okay.
And so there's some websites out there that let you flip a coin as it is, and then you can alter those percentages based on, if you want it to be 50-50, it can be 50-50, but if you want it to be heads has a 54% chance of happening, you can do that as well.
Okay.
So that's how the methodology of it was.
Okay, cool. Because in the beginning of the season, I didn't know you could see every game. They already put that out. But in the beginning of the season, I know they were calling for the Raiders to get about 7 wins. That was what most of the projections showed. So that brings us into the next thing. I think most fans, they like to do their own projection. You go through the schedule, win, loss, and it's fun. But your technique is unique because you're bringing in a third party. You're not judging if they're going to win or lose. You're using another method to predict it, with taking you out of the equation. So what exactly did that consist of, and how did you do the flipping? How did you figure out who wins?
Right, exactly. And I think that's kind of the fun of it, because a lot of people have their projections, like you were saying, and I think in this case, the way that I did it, it's completely objective. Because it's completely objective in the sense that the game is decided by statistics and it's decided by the coin flip. So, there are a few instances in my thing where a team would be favored by 10 points and they would have lost the game. And so I can't question it. That might not happen realistically, but that's how it happens, and you got to roll with it. So that's that. And I think, as I was saying before, the coin flipping came about. Like I was saying, there was just a website which you could input what the weighted odds were for these games based on whether it was like a -3, -7, or what have you. And then for each team, you would just go and flip it and see what the results were. In order to try to make it a little bit more realistic, what I did was, in order to kind of represent teams that were on a hot streak or a cold streak, for every game that I flipped that was an upset, for the next game that team played, I would add on or either take away 1/2 of a point. So I think, for example, one thing that happened was in my first game of the season, the Browns played the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were favored to win that game. But when I flipped the coin, the Browns had won. So for the next game, if they were favored by, say, 5 points, the Browns, then when I would have done the coin flip, I would have said they were favored by 4.5.
Okay.
It wasn't a perfect system, but I tried to get some kind of realism in there for teams that would get better or worse as the season went on.
The coin flip, it's digital, right? You don't use a physical coin, and you input the weighted odds, and then you use the website to flip an imaginary coin, or?
Yep, and it would either say heads or it would say tails, and if whichever, I think I put it so that heads would be the greater percentage. So if it landed on heads, then the favored team won. If it landed on tails, it'd be the upset. Okay,
cool. Did you ever do any redos, or you just did one flip for every single game?
One flip all the way through.
Nice. How long did that take you?
It took me a fair bit. I'd probably say it took me like an hour or two on a weekend, but
yeah. So you kept it all on an Excel sheet, or what?
Yep, I just kept it on an Excel sheet so I could easily scroll through it after I was done and see what was interesting. Okay, cool.
So have you done this before, or is this the first time you've done this?
No, this was the first time that I had done it. And I guess one of the overall intents of it was to maybe post it on Reddit and get some free internet karma. And I looked at that at first, but then I thought to myself, well, some people probably won't be that interested in this because I'm a Raiders fan, and it has, the Raiders are winning 10 games and their first 2 games are against upset wins over the Ravens and Steelers, and they're going to make the playoffs. People are going to rag on me for that.
Okay.
So I didn't do anything with it at first.
Okay. Because I did notice the post is 2 games in, and you could say that, I just jotted that down, but obviously I think at this point everyone is believing that you had this prior to the season start. Yeah. So have you ever felt responsible for a win or a loss?
Well, the first, what I'll tell you is this: the first time that I thought something was really interesting was in the loss to the Bears, because I think that was the first game that, first of all, when I made my first post, a lot of people were saying, if we lose to the Bears, I'll do this. If we lose to the Bears, I'm gonna do something. And then it actually happened. So that's when I first started thinking to myself, maybe this has some traction to it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and then at that point, you're further down the road, further down the season, because I don't think anyone had us going 3-0 to start the season.
Right, I don't think so either.
So
I mean, there's two good teams to start off the season, and then the Dolphins, a team that barely lost to at the end of the season last year.
Yeah,
a tough opener.
It's another thing with sports betting and everything. It's funny how close so many of the games were this season. So I mean, one or two plays would have, no more perfect coin. So.
Right, and I think that's another bet. I mean, it's an interesting thing to look at with a coin as well. It's like that either predicts like a win or a loss. Like it doesn't do anything with scores. So I mean, a win by 20 is the same thing as a win by 2. Yep,
very, very true, very true. Have you cheered for a loss? Is the Raiders' success more important or your coin's perfection?
So one thing I will say on this is I personally haven't bet any money on this yet. So okay. I've been cheering for wins most of the season, but I think around the time that we were getting to, what was the last game? I think it was the Bengals game. That was the end of like the 3-game loss streak after the bye.
Yeah.
That was one where in kind of the back of my mind, I was thinking, if we lose this and then we start winning at the end of the season, it'll be kind of funny. So I was secretly a little bit happy that we lost that game, so this streak could keep going.
Gotcha. I mean, it's hard not to be, but obviously, like you said, you want to cheer for wins, but it's just such a funny thing. And now with the attention it has, you have us winning Sunday versus Washington, and then what's the game after that? Because I'm pretty sure you have it as a loss, correct?
I think it's the second Chiefs game that's after the Washington game, and that's a loss.
And that's funny because we'll look into the following projections for the next couple weeks a little later on, but it's not that unrealistic,
Right, the games in the remainder of the season are not that unrealistic. I think the biggest hurdle to overcome was the Cowboys game.
Yeah, to get back on the
especially thinking about it in Dallas, that was going to be really difficult to overcome. And then coming into the game, you started seeing these posts. Amari Cooper's got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
CeeDee Lamb might not clear the concussion protocol. So I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to get into. Your coin predicted the wins and losses for the schedule, but it's impossible. It can't predict what happened with Ruggs, what happened with Gruden. But that did have a big impact on our wins and losses when you look at it. So it's pretty funny how that worked,
Yeah, it makes. I don't want to make light of the whole Henry Ruggs situation because it's obviously tragic what happened. But
Absolutely.
I mean, the situations that happened, it does seem to make a little bit of sense because I mean, the whole Gruden situation happened after the Bears game, and then you bring in a new coach, and that kind of brings some life into your offense. And so after that, 2 wins where the team does play pretty well. And then after the Eagles game was when the whole Henry Ruggs situation happened. And you could make the claim that he was such a big part of the offense and the playbook was really designed around him and of course the emotional impact that would have, that really put the team kind of out of sorts.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
I'm on that side of thinking that that's what happened. But it's funny that the coin predicted the games to go that way in the beginning of the season when obviously nothing had happened yet.
Is there something to it? Is there something else to it?
That's the question. So, was there any moment you had full doubt in your coin's prediction?
Honestly, well, when the Raiders were up by 3 in the fourth quarter at the Cowboys game, I was starting to doubt, to be honest with you.
Really?
Because I mean, we've seen situations like that before, where I mean, and obviously the Cowboys they had a great even without Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys had a really good offense.
Yeah.
And so Dak definitely had the capability to lead the offense down the field to either win the game or send it to overtime, which he did do. And that was when some doubt honestly crept into my head.
Yeah. What was your most doubt with the game before it happened? Like where you're like, all right, this coin's wrong because this is not going to happen.
I would probably either the Cowboys game or maybe the Giants game.
Giants, okay.
Because the Giants game was interesting just because, I mean, we've kind of seen as what happens with like early East Coast games in recent years. and not just with the Raiders, with a lot of other West Coast teams as well. It's kind of prevalent. But I mean, I was thinking to myself, like, even after the bye week, there was maybe a decent amount of time to prepare.
Yeah.
And they may have been able to buck that trend. But then then the loss happened.
Yeah, I mean, we went to Pittsburgh, beat them, similar travel. So I was feeling very confident. I think a lot of people were feeling very confident. So if I was in your shoes, I would probably pick that game to be the biggest. Okay, I think we're gonna win this.
Yeah, and especially at the beginning of the season as well, when I posted the 2 wins, then people were starting. Not only were saying, "Oh, if we lose the Bears," like, "Oh, if we lose the Giants," because basically how they looked at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Yeah.
And it happened.
So how's everyone interacting with you about your coin? Have you been getting a lot of attention on social media, on Reddit?
I mean, a fair bit. I mean, you reached out, and I've had a few other people reach out as well. I've had a couple of people say, "Hey, thanks for the extra cash that you got me," for people actually putting money on this.
Yeah.
And going back to it, like, I'm not much of a sports bettor myself personally. Maybe I should be with hindsight, but I mean, in my view, it's kind of just as good to see other people be like having that success and like being thankful about it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's nice.
Yeah.
I have a couple points on that a little later on too. So talking about sports betting, I saw one user say under one of your posts that if you bet $100 and kept using the winnings on the coin's predictions up until now, including us beating the Dallas Cowboys, you would be over $510,000.
It's crazy to think about, isn't it?
It is. I'm assuming nobody has done that because I feel like they would have been showing that. But
yeah,
and another point I wanted to get to, but next year you have to do this again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I think, and I think this is also the point where I say that it's funny that this has been so consistent for the Raiders, and that I'm a Raiders fan myself. And I think what ended up happening was the only other team that had made it even close to this far, not just getting their record pretty accurate within like a few games, which based on looking back at the data, it actually shows that within a few games, most of the teams predicted the record between like 1 or 2 games or something like that. But the only other team that had gotten every game right up to as close as where we are now was the Lions. And that was just because it was loss.
Uh-huh.
And then the first win that the coin predicted for the Lions, I think, was against the Eagles, I want to say. But they lost that game. And then the next week, I think they tied Pittsburgh. So it was close.
Okay.
But it wasn't exact.
So like you said, people are using your coin's predictions, betting on them, and making some money. So I've seen a couple posts I saw one, for example, the guy put up 1,500 and won over $5,000. And then cool thing, I've seen some people saying, "Oh, if I win," I'm assuming using the winnings, they're going to donate to charity, and then some people matching that. So that's a really good thing, and that must make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, that's a really good thing as well. Like, I mean, as long as it's for a really good cause, then
absolutely. And then, of course, you got the negatives where you got arguments about the coin jinxing us and reverse psychology within the nation and superstition and mystery. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna. It's the internet. People are gonna find a reason to argue about anything. But I think I would definitely say the majority of the reception to this kind of, at least after the start, once it started picking up a little bit traction, and there was people could see that there was something to it. I would say the majority of the reception has been pretty positive. I think people, it's something good for people to follow.
Yeah, I think so too. I've seen a lot of people saying like it's our last hope. Especially when we were 5-5 and it was looking downhill, and then people were saying, the coin says we're going to the playoffs. We're going to the playoffs.
Yeah. So, they said it was going 5-5, so going 10-7.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's another thought. That's another thought of mine. I think looking back on it with the situations that have been going on this season, at least in my view, and this is just my opinion, but I would say going 10-7 with everything that's happened to the team, I would say in my view, I do that as kind of a success. But some other people might not feel the same way.
Well, I don't know exactly what I came out with when I did my own little prediction, but it was around 10-7, 11-6, because you got to think that the team was going uphill. So it's funny because it's not an unrealistic record. And you brought it up earlier. were any predictions for any of the teams like wildly off?
Yeah, I would say for sure. I think the big one, the team that the coin got the most wrong was definitely the Cardinals. I think, okay. And one thing I will say is that the Cardinals were, I think, one of the more upset-ridden teams with the predictions that it made. I think the Cardinals at the end of the year, I think, ended up being last in the NFC West, I think with like 6 wins or something like that. But okay. I think with the amount of upsets that they had, I think they were going to finish around like 9-8 or 8-8 or something like that. But okay. I think that was kind of wildly wrong, and I think that was kind of the most egregious example of the coin being wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. One thing that I think was kind of surprisingly accurate about, as a matter of fact, was the Chiefs starting off kind of slow. And I think it didn't happen in exactly the same way, but one thing that I did notice was that after it was all over, the Chiefs started the season 0-3, which I think they almost did, because I think correct me if I'm wrong here, but they beat the Browns, which was a game I think they should have lost. But then I think they lost their next 2 games.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember, but it was a rough start for them for sure.
Yeah, and then the rest of my predictions had them, I think, I don't know if it was winning out, but I think they ended up like 12-5 or 11-6 or something like that, and they were going to win the AFC West. But I think that was one of the more accurate predictions that I think. So it surprised me, but ended up being really close to reality.
Okay, you do have Kansas winning the division.
I have Kansas City winning the division.
Do you have, off the top of your head, do you remember what you have the Chargers and Broncos finishing?
I have the Chiefs at 11-6, the Raiders at 10-7, the Broncos at 9-8, and the Chargers at 7-10.
Okay. So
that's the other kind of interesting thing, because the Chargers did start off kind of hot, but then they fell off. Looking back at my predictions, which is maybe what's happening now.
Yeah. What's their record? 6-5, right? It's tied with us.
I think so. Yeah. I think they had lost like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah. So
whereas the Raiders are trending up, I think the Chargers are trending down.
So has anything come from this? Has any Raiders players interacted with the coin? Have you seen any of that?
Nope, no players yet. And I think other than you, a few other people have reached out to me for like interviews like this. I think I actually appeared on a podcast yesterday, and I'm actually talking to somebody else tomorrow. Cool. So I think that's all I've reached out so far. And then I think there was that other article where they said if you bet $100 over and over again, you would have had $500,000 or something like that. He reached out to me as well. So okay, that's pretty much the extent of it.
Well, here's my thing. I think that especially if we go 10-7, if it's 100% accurate, I think Mark Davis and the Raiders should contact you, and then the first game of next season, you should flip the coin. I know refs do it, but that would be the cool thing to do. Since it's Vegas, you know.
Speak it into existence.
I know. Look, I love it. If you go 10-7, we'll push for that. I think the whole Raider Nation would be very supportive of that.
Yeah. Even if we go 10-7, but what about if we don't make the playoffs? I guess that's the other caveat.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask about that. So because you did every team, right? And that's how you kind of got the playoff picture with the wild cards. So I don't know if you'd be able to tell, but as of right now, is there a way where you can see that we would make the playoffs or not in that seventh spot seed based on the other teams' performances?
I mean, you would have to think about it, because I think the other wild card spots were taken up by the Raiders. The Patriots were the 6th seed, and then the Browns were the 5 seed.
Okay.
Which I think, I'm not sure how the Brown season is going to shake out, because they seem to be kind of trending in the wrong direction as well. But I mean, if we're replacing them with another AFC North team, I think the Bengals might be able to take that spot if they keep playing how they have been.
Okay.
So I think looking at the predictions that I've made and how the season is playing out right now, I think one of the biggest games for the 2 teams that are going to be looking into it towards the end of the season is going to be Raiders-Colts Week 16. Week 16. Okay. Because I think based on both odds and what I predicted, I think the Colts have been playing better than people were expecting them to. And so I think going into Week 17, if I'm getting that right with the 1 extra week, I think that'll be a really important game to see. I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the winner of that game goes to the playoffs. and the loser doesn't.
It'd be very, very interesting if we do go 10-7, we get the 7th seed spot, but one of the 5th or 6th spots switched with another team. It would just show, I mean, the Raiders, your whole Raiders portion of it is so accurate. And then it's so accurate that even another team just swapped and it still was okay.
Yeah, it still could be okay.
It'll be
it'll be interesting to see. And I think I could easily see it happening with either like the Browns and the Bengals swapping and then the Patriots. At this point, we might be able to say that the Patriots will probably get in.
All right, Evan. So now we're going to take a deeper dive into the coins projections that you had before the season started. You posted it on Reddit 2 weeks in. I'm sure you didn't expect anything of it. Everyone puts their projections out there, but who cares, you know? But 2 games in, we've won the 2 games, and you probably thought, hey, you're onto something. So you posted it, got decent amount of traction on Reddit, right? The first post, but then it
got ratioed a little bit, but
okay. No I'm sure. I mean, it's hard to believe, especially at that point.
Yeah.
But now we're 11 games in. We're 6-5. We beat the Cowboys. Next week, you projected a W versus the Washington football team, and then we go to the Chiefs, and we take the second time, and we take a L, bringing us to 7-6. Then we play the Browns in Cleveland. We take a W there. We play the Broncos at home, take a W there. Play the Colts, beat them in Indianapolis, and we're at 10-6. And then we end the season versus the Chargers on an L, bringing us to 10-7. And we end up going to the playoffs on a 7th seed based on your whole season projection. So looking at this, 11 games in, we got the Washington football team next week. It looks pretty possible. This is not a crazy projection at all. What game here is the biggest that might not happen to you, in your opinion?
So, based on how they're playing right now, I would say the biggest that might not happen might be the Colts game, just based on how they're playing right now. I mean, I'm lucky that I haven't had to play Jonathan Taylor in fantasy yet, but I mean, I'm sure if I did, I wouldn't be having a good time, but he's playing phenomenal football. Yeah. And I mean, and the defense has been playing really well as well. I mean, they look like a very solid football team. And I mean, if anything, that'll probably be the toughest game to actually overcome. Because I mean, we know about the Chiefs and they have been playing pretty well recently. So, I mean, so if we win there, that'll probably be the one game that I'm not going to be super disappointed if my prediction streak ends there. Yeah. But I mean, I think we'll take it.
Yeah. So me looking at the Chiefs, last year we got away with one, could have won the second one, could have shut them out. We lost versus the Chiefs, 2 weeks ago, but I could see us winning that game because it's going to be hard for us to go 0-2 versus the Chiefs this season. But and like you said, I think if we win versus the Chiefs, I think we'll be feeling pretty good. The coin won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty accurate at that point.
Yeah, I mean the odds are already so astronomically small for being as correct as it is now. So I'll be happy if that's the point we're in.
And what's the odds of it being accurate up until?
So it's one over. It's about 0.09% or something like that.
Okay. Well, with that said, we'll look at the other teams' results because we have the finalized full schedule, which is honestly, it's so cool that you did the full schedule. When I first saw it, I thought you just did the Raiders, and then I saw that you did the full NFL schedule, which is so unique and cool because then you get the playoff picture. So looking at it, you have the Ravens 14-3, but nothing else has been accurate, correct?
So nothing else has been
perfect.
Nothing else has been perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Ravens, the coin had actually predicted they ended up 14-3. They're going to end up 14-3, and at this point in the season, the coin predicted them to be 9-2, and those 2 losses, as a matter of fact, would have. So that's within one game. So I think that's actually like a pretty close prediction. But the losses aren't to the actual teams that they lost to. I think the 2 teams that they were going to lose to, according to the coin, were this most recent game to the Browns, as a matter of fact, in an upset loss. And one of their losses to the Raiders. So,
You know,
so
another.
it's pretty close.
It is, yeah. And I mean, it'd be fun to just go down each team and look at the projection for it. A thing that you should consider maybe is putting the Excel sheet out in the public, or able to share it where people can go click on it, maybe like a Word doc or some sort of document that people can like click on and then just go through them and look, because I'm sure a lot of people would want to do that.
Yeah, that's one of my goals, I think, because right now the Excel sheet, the way that everything's looked out right now, it's a little bit of a mess, and if I wanted to make it out there, I would want to make it like look nice and make it really easily accessible to people so people can easily see what would go on. So I think by the end of the season, I definitely want to have something that people can look at.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So that brings us to the end of the coin talk. Quick couple general questions. Your favorite Raiders player?
Right now, underrated. So popular answer, I'm going to say Darren Waller. I really like what he does. I think his story is really inspirational for where he came from and what he's doing now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, underrated player. I think I'd say Trayvon Mullen. I think I followed him like fairly closely in college, and I think he was a good player then. And for one of the defenders on our team that has I think cemented himself as kind of like a cornerstone as in a position that hasn't really been so strong in the past few years.
Yeah.
I want to see him. I want to continue to see him grow and do well.
I'm really excited for him to come back off his injury.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. And yeah, Darren Waller's definitely more of a popular choice, but I like those two. What's the jersey you're wearing?
So 2-4, not Jonathan Abram though. Not sure if you can see it in the back, but got Color Rush Marshawn Lynch jersey. When he joined the team, I had to get this.
Very cool. 2-4 is a great Raiders number. So, and have you gone to a game this season yet?
This season, I haven't. I mean, you were saying I'm from New York. I was half tempted to go to the Giants game, and I would like to say that the coin told me not to go, but honestly, I didn't want to have to drive 8 hours during the day to go see the game. But so I haven't been to a game this season. When they go to Cleveland, I'm maybe thinking about going to that game. If I can maybe meet up with some friends of mine while I'm there for a weekend, but that might be an option.
Yeah, well, when you know the result of each game, you can pick a little better.
And they're winning the Browns game, so it'll be good to go.
There you go. So, do you have any social media you want to plug? Any accounts? They can find you on Reddit, right? You'll post the weekly thing if it keeps going?
Yeah. Once it keeps going, I'll probably keep posting the weekly thing. So pongislame is the Reddit account. And if you want to follow my personal Instagram, that's at Evan J. Griffith, Griffith. So if you want to follow me there,
cool.
Feel free.
Very cool. Thanks for joining me, my man. Good luck to the coin's success. Again, the final projection, according to the coin, is 10-7, and the Raiders make the playoffs as a 7th seed wild card. If we end up going to the playoffs, based on the coin's projection, I say we get back together and record a video of you producing the potential outcomes for the playoff run based on the teams in the playoffs. Based on doing the whole coin thing, I'm sure we could probably do that, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, if everything goes well, hopefully it does. It'll be another fun little update video. So again, thank you for joining me, and good luck to your perfect projection.
Thank you for having me.
See you.
Go Raiders.
There you go.